Congrats, MJ Bulls. Huge day today across the sector. I can't possibly cover all the tickers that had some significant moves, but we'll do our best here. We're going to look at the major five along with OGI, MPX, CVSI, TRUL, TGOD, and VFF, IIPR, and CWeb. It's a significant day in the sector for multiple reasons. Multiple takeaways. Number one, OGI had bullish earnings. Number two, along with number one, be prepared for your ticker's earnings. Write down the dates that they are coming out. You don't want to get surprised with earnings and being in a position you weren't anticipating to hold through earnings. And number two, we have significant strength today regardless of SPY weakness. SPY was down over 1% at points today. The oil daily uptrend has been lost. This strength for the MJ sector is completely disregarding market weakness. That is a wonderful sign for the bulls, and the biggest takeaway today for me, completely disregarding that weakness. And in my opinion, it was disregarding that weakness for a number of reasons. Number one, the blue sky bulls like Kron are surging forward and providing a lot of, bullish environment to work in for the rest of the sector. And number two, the reaction to OGI earnings. OGI earnings was a beautiful release, and I'd love to talk to whoever made that decision to release earnings as a bit of a surprise this morning, because in my opinion, it was absolutely intentional to trap shorts, and it was perfect timing. You have a clear bear break on Friday with a spike in bear volume on reaction to lawsuit news. That tells you that shorts are going to be piling in on that news, and we close near the low of the day. Then you come out knowing that you have solid earnings and knowing that it's probably going to surprise the market, and you put that out the next day, and it just traps everybody that went short on both Thursday and Friday, and potentially even people that went short on Wednesday with that big upper wick of profit taking. So that is just perfect timing. And honestly, I feel like companies that are serious should have a trader on their board or a technical analyst on their board just to give, little tips like this. Like, hey, you could trap some shorts if X, Y, and Z, and maybe help the companies with when to time news releases. So we saw CGC with its New York hemp news with really good timing as well. And this is a perfect case of a higher open trapping a bunch of shorts that entered on bearish news back on Friday. Huge day. Green Marabozu. Look at the volume. Close up at the high. The entire sector is setting up for the kind of top that we used to see, a blow-off top. What I mean by a blow-off top is the kind of top where we see a gap up open, a push first thing, and then a complete 180 turnaround, a new low of the day, and a dump. I'm not saying it's going to be tomorrow, but every single day from this point forward, we need to be expecting a very quick turnaround to mark the temporary top. When we mark these temporary tops, we're still going to expect daily higher lows to form. A lot of these bulls have a ton of space to work with to form these daily higher lows. Just be aware that when we top out on some of these names, that we will pull back 50%, or no, too much, 10% very quickly. So just be aware that that's how these tops usually go. When you get this all-out euphoria, which is where we are at right now in terms of psychological cycles, all-out euphoria is met with a climax. You don't just fade. You don't just stop seeing the bull volume show up and we just slowly start to consolidate. We see that blow-off top that, again, if you've been in this space now for over a year, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But we have this gap up scenario. It was the kind of day that was so bullish in the sector that you could get the sense, we're going to look to close strong and we're going to look for a gap up open tomorrow. So I'm personally swinging a bunch of positions. I went real big into Kron. I'm swinging Kron, CVSI, MPX at this point, and I'm swinging a bigger Kron position than I would normally even day trade with. So taking on a decent amount of risk. It's been a solid January, so I can take on that risk, but looking for a gap up open on Kron tomorrow to lock in that profit. So for OGI, hourly support, we have not established an hourly high or low. I take that back. This is a little support level established, 687. If we hold 687, bulls remain in full control. Keep in mind that when we do get those blow-off tops, we will still see bounce opportunities as well. The first 5-minute oversold bounce from a significantly bullish environment to a 5-minute oversold pullback, you usually get a really solid bounce on that 5-minute oversold. So keep an eye out for that as well. But one step at a time, OGI, if we can keep 687, the bulls are in full control. I'm keeping Kron on the corner of my eye. It's hitting all-time highs in after hours right now. But 687 is that key support. Resistance on the daily time frame, zooming out. We're now looking back up at the next level of 746 as the next resistance. Just be aware that if we were to start tomorrow with a gap up open, the hourly time frame is going to be extremely extended with the RSI above 80, and we could pull back to need to establish an hourly higher low of support. But as far as the bulls are concerned, it was an ideal picture-perfect day setting up for a likely gap up open tomorrow. Cron, huge follow-through day. And so what I've been highlighting is how blue sky bulls are the ideal scenario to be in if you are a bull. I said that on Midas on Friday, and that's just picture-perfect. If I had a textbook where the lesson was, why are blue sky bulls best, I would put this chart up and show, yeah, we had a significant, huge day across the sector, CGC 5%, APHA 3%, ACB 6%, but Cron 15%. Why was it able to far outpace everybody else? Blue sky breakout, zero resistance, and pound for pound in terms of, fundamentals, market cap, and chart, Cron's the lead bull in the sector for me. And it's just because it's at blue sky breakout all-time highs. And so not talking anything about, fundamentals compared to CGC, but just if I'm looking from a technical analysis, trading, investing standpoint, Cron is the lead bull in my opinion. So Cron's hourly support to be watching didn't establish any clear support on the way up. So we have to zoom into the 15-minute time frames. If I'm looking for an hourly support, I've got no clear support level aside from the low of 1573. But if I zoom into the 15-minute, I can see we had a support level at 1810, a support level at 1804, support level at 1786, and another one down at 1730. So I can pick out 5 support levels to be watching tomorrow, all from the 15-minute time frame. My entry at the end of the day, and actually I had a bit of a blunder that I'll go over as well. So every morning with the chart guys, I'm live streaming from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. So it's really hard for me to trade during that time period because I'm answering questions, I'm going over people's tickers, I'm basically doing sports broadcasting, but from a stock market perspective. So it's very distracting for me. And I was looking to buy this bull flag new high of the day, this one here at 1688. And I had my order filled out and everything ready to go. I'm talking about other tickers while I'm trying to do it. And I had a market buy order for a solid amount of shares, 5-figure shares at 1688 breaking. And I misclicked, didn't have the order set up right, would have had to go back, re-enter the order. And by that time, we had already seen, a 1 to 2% bull move over that resistance. So that is enough for me to say, all right, I missed my trade signal. I missed that opportunity. I'm distracted. I'm doing other things. So don't try and chase this trade. That's the safe way and conservative way to do it. I'm going to risk losing $0 if I play it safe and don't try and scramble and enter at a worse entry point than what I had originally planned. So that was just a mental and physical error with my clicking. And that's something that's always going to happen in terms of us being humans. That those mistakes, we can, do everything we can to make them happen as infrequently as possible. But here I am 9 years later and it still happens. So just be aware, obviously you want to have as much focus and attention as you can, but no matter what, we're still going to have these little mistakes. I've bought the wrong tickers before. I've sold when I've meant to buy. It's just a part of the game that we have to accept and anticipate that it's going to happen every now and again. So the end of the day entry that I made on Cron was based on anticipating saying, okay, we're holding up just fine. I'm not seeing any solid bear volume showing profit taking. I'm anticipating high of the day closes and gap up opens. And it was about 2 p.m. when I could say, all right, that's the most likely scenario in my opinion. So I entered on this little bull break here. I wanted to see this consolidation had us saying, okay, we might see profit taking into the end of the day. We started bouncing. I wanted a higher low and higher high for an entry. Only got the inside bar bull break, but I entered on that inside bar bull break. And from there, I put my stop loss under $18. That was the most important support level for me. And I said, all right, if we break $18 from that point on after 2 p.m. Eastern, time's a big factor in trading, knowing how much time's left in the day. If we ran to all-time highs here at, 2:30 and saw a huge overextended move, then we're more likely to see profit taking into the end of the day and less likely to see a strong close. We want to see the bull move, the last 30 minutes of trading to ensure that strong close. Cron's now up at 1870 after hours, giving us exactly what we want to see. So that was my entry. That was my stop. And now holding this position into tomorrow, I'll probably take some profit pre-market. I'll probably take some profit into the open, but ideal scenario for the bulls, we're looking up at, right now we're trading in the 1870s. We're looking up at 19 psychological and no resistance. So obviously blue sky breakout. CGC, ideal day for the bulls as well. Beautiful follow through, strong close up at the highs, lack of resistance. The next level we're looking at is 51.21 and then looking at 52.38 from there. Hourly higher low for CGC, inside bar, inside bar, inside bar, bull break at the end of the day. So just like Cron, we have to look at the 15-minute time frame for these support levels: 50.34, 50.20, 50.08, 49.59. So again, we have a bunch of levels to pick out. They're pretty close to each other, and we need to see the bulls break $51 first thing tomorrow. We're watching for the potential of a gap up open. We're not seeing strength on CGC after hours like we are on Cron. Again, another reason why I chose Cron, the lack of resistance makes it easy for these bulls to see solid moves. Here we are trading at about 1.5% over the close for Cron, and we're trading about 0.2% over the close for CGC. But bulls are in full control. Again, with this kind of move, we're expecting a blow off top, a gap up open, an initial surge. The harder we run in the first half hour of trading after a gap up open, the more likely the scenario that that's going to be the kind of move that marks the top. If we see a gap up open and then profit taking and then bulls buy the dip instantly, we're not going to see that kind of blow off top. It's when you see that surge in the first half hour of trading, maybe it's the first 15 minutes of trading, but it's a gap up and run. That's when we get the most overextended, the most euphoria. All the buyers get, dried out. There's no buyers left. And then it's only profit taking, which is why we see that quick 180 turnaround. Again, not saying it's going to be tomorrow, but you better believe that I'm going to be prepared for it to be tomorrow. ACB on the daily, strong close as well. Bit of a weak start, but the bulls able to recover. So again, APHA and ACB, they had great days, but it's just not, and even actually ACB was stronger percentage-wise than CGC, but it's not the kind of strength that we see when we're in blue sky breakout. But ACB next resistance is 752. We're watching again for the potential of a lower high compared to 752, and then the need for a higher low, which would give us a daily equilibrium. All depends on when this sector is going to max out and top out, because it's going to happen as a sector. At this point, the correlations are so strong, the euphoria is so strong, that the sector is going to form temporary tops all at the same time. The question is it going to be tomorrow? If the answer is yes, then we're likely going to form this lower high and need to consolidate and see this tightening range. If the bulls can keep this run going for another 2 days and have another big green day tomorrow and close at the highs and do it all over again, then there's potential that we could break 752. But that is the resistance to be watching. And as far as support goes, we're looking at 698 as the first level. Multiple inside bars that broke bullish, similar to CGC. Same thing, 15-minute higher lows is what you're looking at if you want all these clear support levels. And they were great to use for stop losses today on the 15-minute time frame. If you use the 15-minute higher lows on the vast majority of these names, you would not have been stopped out at any point. APHA. So bulls looking up at resistance. I will chart the US ticker now for APHA. The volume is slightly more than the Canadians. Actually, I take that back, other way around. ACB, I'm charting the US version as volume is slightly more. It's still very comparable. When CGC started to see more volume than weed, it was a huge discrepancy between the two. This is very similar, but I'm in the US. I trade ACB on the US, so we're going with that for more volume. APHA, resistance 1006. We got up to 998 and pulled back. So if we cannot break 1006 tomorrow, and if we break this support of 973, that tells us that we are rejecting from that resistance. At this point, it's still just an hourly higher low, so the bulls are just fine on APHA, but it's if we get further pullback from here without being able to break 1006 that we have that tightening daily scenario with our high, low of the pullback, inability to break resistance, and then the need for a higher low. So very similar to what ACB is forming right now as well, but it looks like APHA is almost one step ahead and was unable to break resistance this time around. Have to break 1006 tomorrow to get through that resistance level. Otherwise, we need to consolidate from that rejection. TLRY, bulls finally showing up in a convincing way as well. Gap down open and bulls bought it in a big way. Bullish engulfing candlestick. And next resistance is up at 86.43. So this is a scenario now where we have an equilibrium forming. And this is a different shaped equilibrium than pretty much anybody else. But we've got our low, high of the bull move, higher low, and we're scouting a lower high. A lot of space where that could form, but anything under 8 or anything under 106 is a daily lower high to be watching for. And losing the hourly uptrend will be the indication that our daily lower high has been established. Last hourly higher low, 77.13. And the CEO and some other people selling some shares. So pretty much they said, hey, privateer holdings, we're not going to sell any shares. And then the CEO just went and sold his personal shares. So technically, I guess he wasn't lying, but he was selling profit. Either way, we're looking at the equilibrium at this point. Strong close at the high of the day, looking for that gap up open just like everybody else. MPX, huge follow through. So this is one of my swing positions. And there was a bit of discrepancy with IAN today. Anticipated that the arbitrage opportunities, and if you don't know what that means, get on Google, but anticipated that the arbitrage opportunities would be over between IAN and MPX because of how close we are to this deal actually going through. But that's not the case. We had at points today, IAN was up 7-8%, while MPX was only up about 4%. But we did end up closing up at the high of the day. 116 is a key resistance to be tested tomorrow. If the bulls can get over 116, we're looking up at 127, and this is a very significant recovery, and 127 is the all-time high. So that is the resistance level we're watching, 10% away from where we currently stand, and I'm going to be looking to hold MPX as a bit of a longer-term position. But if we see this run continue, I might be tempted to scale out a little bit of profit and lighten up that position a little bit. But ideal scenario for the bulls with a strong close. Hourly high or low is 110. Close at the high of the day, anticipating strong opens with everybody else. CVSI. Daily bulls bought the dip in a big way. We pulled back hard from the bearish reversal candlestick yesterday, broke that support of 509 first thing and dropped all the way to 584. Bulls aggressively bought that dip, and we are now looking back at 535 resistance. 523 is actually a double top. Looks like we did break that right at the end of the day. So it is 535. That's the most important resistance level from here. If we break it, that gives us the daily higher low of 484, and then continuation of this bull move, which was signaled by this weekly equilibrium that had played out for 4+ months, breaking bullish last week. That was my signal for entering the swing trade. I did take a little bit of profit today as well. After the size of the pullback, we pulled back from the close 511. We dropped 5% instantly in 5 minutes this morning. And I said, all right, that's a little bit too much of a pullback, a little bit too great of a percentage swing for the size of the position that I had. So I took some profit on CVSI at 515 today to lighten up that position to allow me to be able to stomach those wider, wilder swings. Close up near the high of the day there as well, but have to break 535 tomorrow. TRUL, daily higher low, very clearly established. Bulls defended support. Key break of resistance. Look at every day is a lower high on these candlesticks while we consolidate. And then we break $13 first thing. That's your go signal for the bulls to clearly establish a daily higher low. Now it's all about 1483. Similar to ACB, if we cannot break 1483, we're going to look to consolidate and then have to form a higher low. So it's all about 1483 resistance from here on the hourly time frame. It's a potential bull flag at the end of the day. And if you were using the hourly trend change as your signal rather than looking at the daily chart, you got an early signal. 1215 was your support level. We bounced and topped out at 1254, just another hourly lower high. We then held 1215 by 7 cents and then broke the lower high pattern. So look at these clear lower highs, lower lows, all this pullback, higher low, higher high. 1254 was that bull signal, and it was very significant follow through from that shift in hourly momentum. So it's all about that key 1483 resistance from here and whether or not the bulls are able to break that. Again, we have to be cautious of the entire sector doing that blow off top. So keep in mind that for individual names, let's say TRUL breaks 1483 and runs up to 1488. If the sector blow off top happens right after that, it's not going to matter that we broke 1483 resistance. We're going to pull back with the rest of the sector. So just be aware that individual names and their key levels will be overridden by what the sector as a whole is doing. And in my opinion, it is very clear that we are moving as a euphoric unit at this point. TGOD cannot ask for better follow through, better volume, better continuation on this daily high or low being established. The hourly trend change was clear and beautiful. The break of 319 was the signal for continuation, and the bulls have not looked back. Huge volume, and we're up 30% in 3 days after that 319 break. Hourly support. Let's look at the 15-minute for more clarity. 392 is the most important support. And you can look across the entire sector. We consolidated at noon. And noon is the most important support in the midterm, short-term time frame for me on every individual name. Let's just look real quick. So it's 392 on TGOD. Let's look at CGC on the 15-minute time frame. Just before noon, it was 49.59. Let's look at Cron just around noon. Just before noon, it was 17.30. That's the most important level for me. We do have 15-minute higher lows after that level, but that was the clear initial consolidation and clear significant bull buying of the dip for pretty much every single ticker near that time. So keep an eye out on the low of noon or just before noon. Today's support established. Tomorrow, that's a key level that we're going to be watching. But for TGOD, it's all about 392. It's also worth noting any individual names that did not close at the high of the day today do stand out a bit for that fact, the fact that they did not close at the high of the day. So here on TGOD, we had a huge day, but we did pull back 2% from that high. So still a very strong close comparatively to, where we could have closed, but there's some other names that we're about to look at that do not have as strong a close, and that stands out. That shows, we're not feeling the euphoria that the rest of the sector is, and that's a bit of a short-term red flag for those bulls. So N is one of those names. We closed near the low of the day as opposed to the high of the day, and out of everybody that we just looked at, that very clearly stands out. So 167 is our resistance, 120 is our low, so high, low, potentially a lower high at 159 now, and if we pull back tomorrow and break 148, support at the end of the day that was established, then we'll say, all right, that's our daily lower high now of 159, and then we have to pull back and form a higher low compared to 120. So the shift in momentum is already on for N, much more profit taking. Doesn't mean we can't see a higher open if everybody else gaps up, but it's just a very clear divergence from the rest of the sector, and VFF is the same. Bearish reversal candlestick on the daily after a huge 6-day bull run. Hourly uptrend on VFF was lost. So breaking 678 was the first signal of potential daily consolidation. And if tomorrow, if we break 663 in the morning, we're going to look to pull back and form a daily higher low. So again, it just stands out. No major red flags. We're still going to look for a daily higher low. It just stands out that it's not as bullish as everybody else in the sector. IIPR, blue sky breakout, huge raging bull the last 5 days. We've run 10% in that time. This is a name that gives dividends, remember. Closing up at the highs. Hourly higher low is 60.79 key support in the short term. If bulls hold that level tomorrow first thing, they keep full control. Resistance is all psychological levels, 62, 63, so on and so forth. Again, another name that we're expecting a blow off top soon this week. CWeb, all-time high. Bulls in full control. Hourly higher low to keep the bulls in full control. Ideal if they can hold 1997 first thing tomorrow morning. If they can't, we've got these 15-minute higher lows to be watching with that noon support of 1966. And as far as resistance goes, after 2025, we're looking up at 21. CWeb bulls in full control. So we got blue sky bulls, CWeb, IIPR, Cron as the blue sky bulls on this list. VFF and N stand out because they did not close near the high of the day. TGOD definitely overextended as well, didn't close at the high of the day, and watching for the potential of some consolidation there. Pretty much everybody else closing at the high of the day, bulls in full control, watching for gap up opens. The harder we run in the first however many minutes of the trading day, the more likely that blow off top is going to be. So the bigger the gap up and then the harder the push right after that gap up, that's when I'm cautious. So it's also, we get a lot of good information on the first dip. If we see a gap up open, we don't get a run, we get profit taking first thing, and then we see bulls buy the dip and set a new high of the day. That's best case scenario for the bulls. That says, all right, everybody that wanted to take profit took profit and they were out. There was more demand for shares than supply because we bought that dip and hit a new high of the day and see continuation. Those are the two different scenarios if we get the gap up open. Do we see profit taking first thing, which gives the potential for continuation, or do we see a surge first thing, which increases the odds of the potential blow off top? That's all I can say. I blew out my voice. Can you tell I like this stuff? Good luck. Congrats, bulls. If you're comfortably green, do your own thing. See you soon.